Hey everyone, this is John Lin from Sunrise Urology. Thank you so much for watching. If this is the first time that you're watching our live stream, thank you so much. And if you're a repeat viewer, thank you very much for following us on our Facebook page. Now, we all have our personal hang-ups, and myself, I wonder about, if there's something that I can change about myself, certain parts of my body, I wish it would look different. I wish it would be shaped differently. We all have those issues. Today, I have a very, very special guest. I'm super excited to have Lindsey Bianco, and she's a sufferer of something called body dysmorphic disorder, and she is super brave to be here today to talk about this condition. And welcome to the studio. Thank you so much for being here. I'm so excited to talk about this because this impacts on so many people, not just myself. And I think 10 to 20% of the population is suffering with this type of condition.
Men and women, everyone.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
So my name is Lindsey Bianco, like you said, and I am a ballroom dancer currently and really into the fitness world as well. And so I've had a lot of struggles with body dysmorphia going back from when I was a child mostly. And
so tell us how that started.
For me, it was, not to get too deep and personal, but just kind of started with, I had a father that, without using bad language.
That's okay. It is the internet. Anything goes.
Anything's safe? Okay.
Anything goes.
He kind of made it clear to me that I was, worthless and stupid, and would make, I was an overweight child. I kind of looked to food for security and happiness. And
but tell me what led to that? What led to the point where you use food as a security blanket?
I think for me, my growing up, my parents were gone a lot. My brother had a heart problem, so he had a lot of surgeries, and they were in Minnesota, and I was young, and they to me, they just left, right? And I didn't really know why or what happened, what was going on with my brother, because I was too young to really understand the bigger picture. So I lived with my grandparents, and I don't know, I just felt like a little bit empty and unsure of what was going on in my life. And I was alone.
So you had a sick sibling, and your parents paid a lot more attention to
rightfully
the sick sibling, rightfully so, and then you were kind of left with your grandparents.
Yes. And so the thing that made me happy was chocolate and cake and ice cream and chips and anything that just, it made me feel good emotionally. Sure. And I would look forward to those times and meals and things like that. So by the time I was 12, I was 240 pounds, I think.
Okay, I have a picture of that.
Yeah.
And the picture on the left is you at 12 years old, right?
Yeah, that's right before I decided to lose weight for the first time.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then what happened?
So I joined Weight Watchers actually at 12, and I got a personal trainer, and over the course of the year lost 80 pounds. And wow. And then I think at that age that's pretty hard to do, and so it taught me a lot about just dedication, and it gave me a little bit of self-confidence, because each week that went by and I'm like losing weight and it's happening for me, and I'm like, wow, I'm really doing this.
Yeah.
How many times I'd already tried and failed, and
by the age of 12.
At 12.
That's incredible.
Yeah. So so I lost the weight, but I still didn't really do anything. I wasn't involved in sports ever or activities. And my mom, who at the time she was managing a Fred Astaire dance studio, and she had begged me to come try out ballroom dancing, and I was just like, this is weird. That's a whole foreign lifestyle to me. Yeah. So she said, just one lesson, just give it one shot, right? And so I said, fine, just to appease her, I'm gonna do my one lesson. I'm gonna go back to hanging out at the house watching TV. So I was so insecure so I had lost the weight, but I was also 5'9" already, and I was only 12 years old. So
wow,
I'm just
that's really tall.
Yeah. So I was a really tall child, and it was 12, so I was just not comfortable with who I was, and I was teased when I was overweight.
Oh, of course. I mean, and you were super tall too.
I was tall and 240 pounds, so I was bigger than most adults. Yeah. In 6th grade, so you can imagine. So I go to take my one dance lesson, but I didn't let the teacher touch me. And it's ballroom dancing, right? You're supposed to be in frame
partner
with
dancing,
someone. Yes. So I made sure that we did it in a private room, so it wasn't around any of the other dance lessons, and he didn't touch me. And so I just learned the steps based off of him being next to me. But I was like, okay, I'll do one more lesson. And second lesson, we went into frame, but I still asked if we could be in the private ballroom because I didn't want anyone to see me.
Why is that?
Oh, it was just, I don't know. I hadn't ever really tried anything in my life before, ever. And so there was almost like an not a shame, I don't know, shame or embarrassment that what if I suck at this?
Yeah, maybe it's just a little awkward.
Yeah.
Yeah. At 12 years old. Sure.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Makes sense.
Plus, you're in ballroom, there's the physical contact and you're, face to face with someone.
Somebody, yeah.
That also is kind of awkward at 12 years old. And
okay, makes sense.
I'm tall, so I'm literally face to face with them.
Right.
And it was just, I remember being so hot. My body was on fire because I was just so anxious and scared of doing it. But it kind of left me with a high when I was done because I did it. Okay, that was not bad.
So second lesson.
Second lesson, then I go into the frame and I did it, and that wasn't bad. And by the third lesson, I was out in the main big scary ballroom dance floor.
Where everyone could see
Where everyone could see me. And I all of a sudden realized like this isn't bad. This is enjoyable. To a level, I was still really scared. Within a couple months of taking lessons, and I had been really fortunate enough to get a really special teacher that had a little bit of I think special interest in me because I was a junior, and he was from Bosnia and used to teaching junior dancers and kid dancers. Yeah, so he really took me under his wing. And for the first time in my entire life, I think at about 13, 14, I was good at something. I was talented at something, and I was willing to do whatever to get as good as I could, as fast as I could.
So tell me about the, when you were growing up, you gained all this weight, you were 12 years old, you were tall, and you're overweight.
Yeah.
What were people's response or reaction to you, and how did people react towards that height and the weight specifically?
You mean when I was dancing, or just when
before you started dancing?
It just, kids were really mean, obviously. I mean, I was like the size of their parents, and so it was kind of like a freak thing, and so I would just be called like, be told how fat I was, or huge, or humongous, or big. I have all these negative anchors to these words now.
Sure.
And then even my own father at the time, the hardest thing for me is he would tell me like how fat I was. Then that night he would take us to dinner at like a Mexican restaurant. He would order me an adult size serving, and then he would say, "You better eat that whole damn plate because I'm paying for it."
Sure.
And then the next day he's calling me fat again, and it's like, I'm 12. I need to be taught how I should eat and balance and proportion. And then,
but you were not given that, it sounds like.
Yeah, so there was a lot of turmoil in my head about, okay, I'm being called fat and I feel horrible, and they're yelling at me for not finishing this whole huge plate. I'm already like so full, and I just have to keep eating like maybe a big bean burrito and rice and beans. It's a Mexican restaurant. So it was just really stressful, and even my brotherly love too, we would make fun of each other, and that was his go-to, was my size, and I was bigger than him even though he was 3 years older than me, and things like that.
So you were teased a bit by your parents, and
not my mom. My mom is amazing. She was always completely supportive, and I think when you're a kid, it's hard to force like a 10-year-old to want to see the purposes to lose weight and get healthy. Especially when I was not in a good place. When I was 10, 11, actually, I was smoking weed, I was drinking alcohol, I was getting kicked out of school. I mean, I'm like a 5th, 6th grader.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I know. So
rebellious.
Very rebellious. Yeah, I was just trying to get attention, and I kind of craved that. Like, look at me, even if I had to do it in a negative way. And it wasn't who I was. I didn't feel comfortable doing these things.
But it's just a way for you to cry out and get attention.
Yeah. And it worked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So fast forward to dancing. You went through your 3 lessons, and then you thought, hey, this is pretty cool. Mm-hmm. And then what happened after that?
And from that point, I started dancing when I was 12, and I did it competitively until I was 24 when I had my first son. So clearly I got hooked to it.
Yeah, incredible.
I dedicated my whole life to it. I started competing. I would compete somewhere in the United States once a month for sure. I traveled to Slovenia for a 6-week dance camp when I was 17.
Wow.
And
so you went
all in. It was like my drug. It felt amazing, and then I would get, for the first time in my life, positive attention as opposed to being told I'm fat or I'm disgusting. I'm being told, oh my God, you're so beautiful, you're so elegant. With your dance, it's ballroom, and you get to wear these rhinestone gowns, and you feel like it's Cinderella for real life though, you know. Sure. So and my coach, he was incredible, and he really made me feel capable and inspired, and he was a really big influence on my life. So so the success and the progress was really, really addicting to me. So I did it like 7 days a week, 2 to 3 hours a day.
Wow.
Every day.
As an early teenager.
Yeah. Because with the losing weight and doing the personal training, I learned discipline and, hard work and stuff. And so I just kind of transferred that over to the dancing at that point.
Okay.
And kept it going. And I think in a 3-year period, so when I started dancing, I think 3 years later, I won the Pro-Am International Championship, which I had.
So you won the Pro-Am. Is it the United States?
Yeah, in International Latin, which was the style that I specialized in.
Wow, incredible.
Yeah, and it was really cool because when I first started dancing, I went and watched a competition, and there was a girl, I watched her, and she was the best one, right? And I said, oh my God, I want to be like her one day. And 3 years later, I beat that girl. Wow. And she had already been dancing for 7 years.
A lot longer, sure.
So hard work, gonna do. Yeah.
And then what happened?
And then I had my first son. So I competed in dance. Everything was good. 24, I had my first son, and I gained 80 pounds during that pregnancy because I stopped teaching dance and started that Mexican food again, basically.
Yeah. So you went from competitive dancing to teaching dancing, and then you had your first child, gain 80 pounds.
Yes.
And then here we go again with the weight.
Yeah, and not only the weight, but the mental part of it, because all of a sudden I'm finding myself right back where I was 12 years ago, essentially, when I had vowed I will never let myself feel these feelings and go back to that space. So, same thing. I started eating as good as I could and working out and doing spin and just trying to get it off. So it took a year, but, I got it off. And then I think 10 pounds less because I was like, I know I'm going to have another baby eventually. I'm trying to offset it. So, and then 50 pounds again. So it's just been it's kind of my lifelong struggle is once you create those habits as a kid, it's really hard to. It's kind of like a cycle. You started high and then you worked your way down and then you went up again and you went down again and then. A little bump. Yeah. Yeah. So after my second child, I really only had about 25 pounds to lose after I delivered him. And so that wasn't too bad. And so same thing, I just kind of exercise, eat right. And that happened a little bit quicker. And then I got really into fitness competition, or, not really into it, but I was like, I'm going to set a goal for my body to keep me, get in the best shape of my life and really keep me motivated. So, that was good, but it also really had some bad side effects for me. So I trained overall for about a year for the fitness competition, but 8 months of that year, so I'm a very black and white person. I'm going to do it 100%. I've struggled with the gray area completely. It's all in. It's all in. Or off, which is not healthy. So, for 8 months, I did not have one cheat meal, one piece of chocolate, one burger, fry, nothing, not a bite of these things. So this is why you were training for your competition in anticipation of going into this competition. You started training, and then for 8 months before then, nothing. No cheat meal, nothing. No chocolate, no No.
Okay.
And I was working out twice a day, every day. So I would go in the morning first thing and do cardio for about 45 minutes. And then I would come back later in the night to do about an hour of lifting every day, like 6-7 days a week for sure.
And then that led to the competition.
Yeah, so the competition was, that was a good experience. But that night, what happened is something in my brain was like, the competition is over.
So right after the competition. Okay.
Literally right after the night, Saturday night, competition's over with. My mom had brought me, I randomly really craved tuna subs from Subway throughout that's like 8 months, right? So she brought it to me right before like the show started, and then afterwards she delivered
kind of like a pregnancy.
It is like craving, exactly. And it was like the best sub ever. I literally destroyed it like the moment she handed it to me. It's this 6-inch sub, so not too bad. But then it was over and I'm driving back to my house. I'm by myself and I'm driving by a Bosa Donuts, and I'm just like, oh, I could have a donut.
Now you can have a donut. Yeah,
the competition is over. So I go in there, and for some reason I was like, I'm gonna buy a dozen because I don't want to fully commit to one donut. I want like a bite of this one and a bite of that one, some sprinkles. I want some Boston cream, right? I haven't had this stuff in forever. This sounds so funny.
Try the variety.
Yeah, I need variety. So I ate 8 donuts. 8 full donuts.
Wow.
I'm sitting in my car by myself. It's like 11 o'clock on a Saturday night, and I eat 8 donuts by myself. And I haven't had sugar in 8 months. So I feel horrible. So I drive home, and of course, emotionally, I'm just like, what did I do? So I'm feeling guilt, I'm feeling shame.
Yeah.
Lots of feelings I've felt with food my whole life. And during the 8 months, I had like a pack rat. I created a cupboard, and anything that I saw that I wanted to eat but knew I couldn't have, I put in the cupboard. Okay, so by the time the 8 months was over, I opened it up. I mean, it was full. It probably had $300 worth of food inside this cupboard. Of just, some of it was like, protein bars or, special kinds of like protein cookies. So then some of it was just Oreo. They come out with all these new exciting Oreo flavors all the time.
But you couldn't have
any of them.
You couldn't have it because you're training.
Yeah.
So for 8 months, you were pack ratting food in a cupboard.
Should have been a red flag for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, so I had just had my 8 donuts. About an hour later, the cupboard is just like calling my name. So I go over to the cupboard and proceeded to continue to eat a bunch of food from there. And I didn't even taste it. And of course I didn't enjoy it. I was sick to my stomach already. But it just, that binge mentality, when you restrict like that and your body wants it at all, apparently.
It's like a huge rebound.
It's a huge rebound, yeah. So what ended up happening because I did that. So the next day I got back, on track a little bit, and I still ate some treats. But the next day I woke up, this was 2 days after my fitness competition, and overnight I had gained 20 pounds, mostly of fluid, and was completely edemic. You couldn't even see, like my mom was so nervous. She was like, I think we should go to the hospital because
you were so puffy.
I was so swollen, you couldn't even see my eyes at all.
Nice.
And nothing fit me, 20 pounds overnight. So then that guilt sets in. I go, I just worked my butt off for a year, ate like this for 8 months, and destroyed it in 36 hours, basically. I didn't know that was possible.
And here comes the guilt again.
And yeah, not only guilt, but desperation to get back to I was the fittest I've ever been. And I think I was at 14% body fat, whatever.
I may have a picture of that.
Yeah. So that, yes. So it's a little bit too much, but that picture where I'm the thinnest was actually the morning of my fitness competition.
I see a lot of bones.
Yeah, I know. It's very bony. So when I look back at that, when you're in it, that's the goal, is you want to get as lean as possible and, your body fat as low as possible. But looking at that now, I'm just, I didn't see that person.
Sure.
I just saw, I'm getting fit. And now when I see it, it's really hard for me to look at because that doesn't look fit. It doesn't look healthy.
Okay.
So.
Then what happened?
Then that the body dysmorphia and the eating disorders definitely came crashing into my life, because I was so desperate to get rid of this 20 pounds that I had gained, and I didn't want to tell anyone. I didn't want to tell my coaches. I didn't want to. I felt ashamed, and I didn't want them to feel like they weren't proud of me because all of a sudden this is what just happened to me. So I basically, there's a thing called a style of eating disorder called chewing and spitting, which means you eat your food but you don't swallow it, or you chew it so you can get the taste of food and then you spit it out. Okay. So this is kind of actually like unfortunately like an emerging eating disorder, because the first few months I was throwing up as well. It wasn't necessarily intentional, but I would eat so much, or my body wasn't able to have that much food because of the 8 months that I trained, and then naturally your stomach kind of shrunk. Push it out. Sure. Yeah. So then I didn't want to do that. That didn't feel good. So I was like, well, maybe if I don't put the food in my stomach, then I won't have an issue. This is very disordered thinking. But,
so you just chewed and then...
I chewed it up and spit it out. And I got to the point actually where I would do it in front of my boyfriend. Like we would make cookies or cupcakes or something, and I would eat one and just spit it out.
Interesting.
It was just this weird, I don't know. And so I started seeing a dietitian who specializes in eating disorders, as well as a therapist, because clearly I had recovered from weight problems. Well, my body had, but my mind had not. So I never really dealt with like the core emotional issues that causes someone to have, food issues. And
so let me talk about a little bit about body dysmorphia. It's actually a real diagnosis through DSM, Diagnostic and Statistics Manual, in the field of psychiatry. It's actually a real diagnosis, and it involves the preoccupation with one's appearance, and it could be one part of the body or it could be the entire body, and there has to be some sort of repetitive behavior. So your preoccupation is kind of like the whole person. Mine was the whole person. When I would look at myself in the mirror, I would see something very different, and anything that triggered something. If I weighed myself and I was like a pound or two up, and I would go look in the mirror, I actually looked very different than I had just looked 5 minutes ago before I had weighed myself. Yeah. If that makes sense. Yeah. And the other thing for me that was really scary is, this is extreme, but it made me, in my very dark moments of this, I wanted to cut off my limbs. You get like very, very disgusted with what you're seeing, and it's just, I can't explain it. But you felt that body part was just so disproportionate to the rest of your body, and you felt like that needs to come off. Mm-hmm. Wow. Yeah. So that's actually when I sought out therapy and the dietitian. Okay. I had just a really bad night, and just that thought and that process for me was like, okay, this is not who I want to be. Well, at least you had the insight to recognize that this is not normal, and to seek help. And I think a lot of people don't have that insight, and it's the family members and friends who may point that out. But unfortunately, that person who is afflicted with this dysmorphia, they don't see it. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, so I felt very lucky, and I have a really supportive, amazing family. And thankfully, my kids, of course, they didn't see any of this. I was able to, nobody saw it. I was able to function with a front, and everything's fine. I'm Lindsey, and I've done that my whole life. I've always been strong, and everything was okay. And but a lot of body dysmorphics hide, and hide their whatever they're doing, and with clothing, with behavior, and things like that. And you said something, you kind of alluded to the eating disorder, and although eating disorder is not synonymous with, or is not 100% associated with body dysmorphia, it is often associated. But eating disorder is separate than body dysmorphia. So the diagnosis has to be kind of like two separate things. Yeah, two separate things. Yeah. Yeah, so we treated them individually. You kind of had like a little bit of both, right? Yeah, look at me. Yeah. Yeah. So the eating disorder part of it was a lot easier for me to recover from.
that went away quicker than the body dysmorphia.
So that's through therapy? Is that you have work with a dietitian and stuff?
Yeah. So I went to an amazing dietitian, and she's a dietitian, but she really works kind of as a therapist too, but she was incredible. And then a therapist as well. And basically what we had to do besides mental and emotional work was work foods back into my diet, because I was restricted for so long that my body was rejecting. I mean, a banana. I would eat a banana and I would balloon up like 2 sizes. My body just didn't.
Well, you think that you ballooned up in 2 sizes. Okay.
Yeah, but the bloating was as if I was like 4 months pregnant. I couldn't close my clothes or anything, because you create even though I'm eating chicken and rice and fish and vegetables, that's all I ate for 8 months. So you think you're getting nutrients, but when your body doesn't get any other type of nutrients, it's still deficient. And so when I learned that, I was like, what do you mean? I was eating well. I was eating healthy.
You were going through something called orthorexia, right?
Yeah.
So you were fixated on eating just healthy food.
Yeah. And I thought that that's the goal, right? Like, look how healthy I am.
Now you have to relearn
this, and now my whole body can't eat and definitely anything that was processed. So for me to have an Oreo, I mean, that would upset my stomach for days, just because it was used to such clean food and no balance and nothing like that.
Okay.
So
she helped you work back into a regular, more well-balanced diet, including maybe junk food sometimes?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, definitely. And also, I had to gain weight. And, well, no, I was gaining weight, because that's just part of the process, and to learn to be comfortable with that. And having body dysmorphia while putting on healthy weight is really, really, really hard to do.
Yeah, of course.
Because you are seeing your body change, and you already have a distorted view process of it. So that's the part that took me the longest. And so my fitness...
So how did you overcome that? I think for a lot of people, that will be the most difficult thing to overcome.
That part is still a battle for me. So my fitness competition was September of 2015, so it'll be almost 3 years exactly. The eating disorders, I was mostly recovered from about a year later, those habits. But the body dysmorphia... I would say this year I've started feeling much healthier about it, but I still struggle with it. And if I go on vacation, and we all kind of splurge, well, most people, they splurge and they come back and life is normal. For me, I splurge and I come back and I'm really overwhelmed and feeling really gross about my body still. Sure. Not to the extreme where I want to injure or harm myself or look at myself, and I think I look at myself now and I see reality, or at least as much as like a typical woman. We all kind of whatever struggle with that, but
and not just women, men too. Yeah,
that's very true. Yeah.
So you work through with the therapist. You work through some of these issues with eating, and also the way you perceive your body. So you're very fortunate to have that support.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
the right support. Okay.
And I've done a lot of work. I'm a big believer in positive affirmations and incantations, and just kind of if in the body dysmorphia you're telling yourself over and over, I'm disgusting. Oh my gosh, look at me. That's what I look like. That's lots of other words, but so I'm just trying to reverse it. So if my brain can tell me 100 times a day how disgusting I am, then I need to tell it 101 times a day
that you're not.
That it's healthy. I'm normal, and so.
And so much of it, I think, is, hopefully you're surrounding yourself with a lot of people who are giving you positive vibes instead of just people who are just bringing you down. And I found that to be very helpful. You just surround yourself with people who are happy, outgoing, successful, and then you get pulled up instead of being dragged down.
Yes, definitely.
Okay.
That's a very important part of my life. There's not really anyone in my life that's not like leveling up at all times, if that makes sense. Yeah. And
I think it's also important for all of us to remember with our social media obsession, right, on our timelines, what we're seeing on Facebook and Insta and stuff like that. The right type of content that will bring you up instead of the stuff that's just going to make you feel inadequate, feel insecure about yourself.
Yeah. And I think if I could say something to that message, because I started my Instagram account 2 years ago, I wanted to talk about this journey, and I wanted to, there's a huge fitness side of Instagram, but it is not healthy, it's fake, people are not, they're doing desperate things to keep their bodies lean and cut like that. And then they're promoting it to people like it's this easy thing to obtain, but this is what happens when you do that. You know, I lived it. So now there's like this resurgence of people that are coming out and saying this is what happens when you don't have balance, and when
kind of like what you went through.
Yeah.
So there are people coming out on
Lots of
Instagram.
people.
Interesting.
Yeah. There's hundreds of accounts now that have the same or similar experiences as I did with the body disorders, the dysmorphia, eating disorders, and just the fatigue to stay that lean all the time. It's, you know, women stop getting their periods, you're fatigued all the time, you're malnourished even though you're eating 2,000 calories a day.
Yeah.
The effects of it are just, you're not meant to stay in that state for a long period of time. And some people do it healthy. They do a competition a year and then they go back to a healthy body fat percentage, and then they go down again maybe the next year. But I like the message of women to know, if there's accounts that you follow that don't make you feel good about yourself, then get rid of them. It's because so many people, they have this...
You follow these people who are uber thin and uber fit and have all the clothing and stuff like that, when it's not really reality.
It's not
right?
reality at all.
And then what you see, unfortunately, what we're exposed to, social media and television and just mass media, kind of dictates what we perceive as normal. For instance, I'm going to show some pictures of recent pictures of you.
Yeah.
This is what you look like now.
Yes.
Right. So you went from thinking that you are too fat, too thin, and now you have all the confidence in the world.
I try to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think if we could just let people know how to get to that point, right? That'll be just being comfortable in your own skin and being happy with the way you are and with the way you look.
Yeah, and embracing, not getting into comparisons, and so I'm 5'11". I can never change the fact that I'm 5'11", so I'm going to choose to love the fact that I'm 5'11" and embrace that. Or, you know, some people have, you know, great legs, and some people have, right now on Instagram, it's so popular to have these big butts and whatever, but you have what you have, and you can't change that. I mean, you can develop your body, and I think you should exercise just for health purposes and just to be active, but stop looking at people and saying, oh, she has, you know, really great this, or, oh, I'm going to go get lip fillers because look at her lips, and everyone has lips now, and, you know, all that kind of stuff, and it's just too much. So I actually personally unfollowed a ton of accounts that made me feel like I was, you know, comparing myself to those women, or just...
But let me point something out. They look great. You said they look great, but according to whom, right?
Right.
According to whom? And if you go back to 30s and 40s, right? And during the Marilyn Monroe era, right? All these women will be ugly now,
yes,
right? Who have these Insta accounts who are just overly thin, overly fit back in the day. So it's so interesting that we changed from that era, glorifying someone who looks like Marilyn Monroe, to someone who has curves, who actually has fat and who looks relatively natural, and to the way we are now and how we glorify super thin and super fit people. So they look great according to whom, right?
Right, very true. And the other thing too is so much of it is photoshopped and edited, and it's crazy what I downloaded one of the apps and I was just playing with it. I kind of pride myself because I would say 98% of my pictures, there's no editing whatsoever. If I have cellulite, if I have pimples, whatever, it's going to be on there because
that's real life. That's real, yeah.
Yeah. And so, but I played with one of those apps, and I'd make the eyes bigger, the lips bigger, and I made myself crazy looking just as a joke. And I thought, but that's what people are doing. They're making their hips big, they're making their waist small, they're making their lips all off this one app. for $7, you can change everything that you look like.
Yeah, but that's like you are making yourself look like something that you're not to satisfy somebody else's criteria of how you should, look. And that is just disturbing.
Very.
Yeah, and but it's what everybody wants to be. And it's driven by mass media.
Yep.
And it's difficult. I have 3 kids, and you got 2, so it's difficult to try to instill some of these right values, and not so that they're not so fixated on what is being put in front of them, in front of their iPads or Android phones and things like that.
My 8-year-old son said to me the other day I didn't have any makeup on, and because if I'm not at work, I'm not usually in makeup, and he said, "Mom, you're so beautiful. Why do you wear that stuff?" And I just thought it was so endearing. And he goes, people don't need to wear makeup, or he actually gets mad at me if I wear like dresses. He's just a very modest boy. And so people don't, it's not about what people look like, it's about who people are. And I was like, oh my gosh, I feel if I can keep him with that mindset, then he's so far away from how I was brought up. So that makes me proud and happy. Yeah.
So what are you doing now?
So right now, so I've been the training director manager at Fred Astaire in Chandler for the last 8 years, but I'm currently getting ready to open my own Fred Astaire out in Gilbert. So I'm very, very excited for that.
Wonderful.
Yeah, this fall we should be starting the process, and I've already got the location nailed down, and so I'm very excited because the kind of full circle is with the eating disorder and the body image issues. You're so about yourself because there's so much happening with you emotionally and mentally, and so it was stunting me from kind of progressing in my life. And so now I'm super excited because I feel good, I feel healthy, and I'm ready to focus on building something else and something bigger.
Do you know where it's going to be?
It's going to be, there's 2 locations, so it's either going to be on Val Vista and Warner, or Val Vista and Elliott. So we're going back and forth.
Yeah, good spots.
Yeah.
Good spots.
So if you live in Gilbert.
Yeah, you bet. And dancing it's so neat. I think I told you about how I got started dancing. It's nothing formal. It's just learning in bars, and back when swing dancing was really popular, I started being a student and then ending up on stage and then teaching other people how to do it. It gives you such a high to do it, and it's great cardiovascularly, but most importantly, it gives you a lot of confidence, right? You can go out there and ask any person to dance, and then you feel comfortable in your skin out there putting on the moves.
Right.
So there's so many benefits.
And did you feel like, I think you have the confidence to ask people to dance, but did you also feel that it kind of transferred into your life outside of the dancing? Just kind of an extra little pep in your step because of this?
I think anytime you get more confidence in yourself, in whatever you do, it translates and spills over into something else that you do in your whole life.
Right. I think that's what we call, it's kind of, we always say we wish we could shout it from a mountaintop, that dancing, yes, you learn how to dance. That's kind of a bonus, but what you gain from dancing is that the self-confidence, it's the belief in yourself, it's the physical touching of 2 people that someone might be really afraid to do, and that intimacy of, it's appropriate, or obviously just the exercise, the fun. But we have women come in and they have no self-confidence whatsoever. They don't take care of themselves really well, and after 3, 4, 5 months of dancing, that's really it. They're standing taller. They're buying dresses all of a sudden, which we've never seen them in. Hair and makeup are happening, and they're just all of a sudden transforming into these completely new versions of themselves, all because they learned a rumba box step. They didn't think that this is what was going to happen, but that's what happens.
Yeah, that's amazing. Well, thank you so much for sharing your story. I hope this helps some of the listeners who are following us. And if you guys have any questions, certainly feel free to leave them in the comments. And how do people find you now? If they want to follow you on Instagram, I'm going to put up your Instagram
The Giant
handle.
Blonde.
The Giant.
So I've taken my negative anchor words in stride now and just went with the Giant Blonde.
Okay.
Before I used to hate being called Giant, but now I'm the Giant Blonde.
And you also have a Facebook page for your professional dancing instruction.
Facebook page for Fred Astaire, right there.
Awesome. Well, great. We're going to conclude this live stream. Again, if you guys have any questions, leave them in the comments. And hope you all have a great day. If you know of someone who is suffering from body dysmorphia, seek professional help. And wish you all the best of luck and have a great day. Thank you so much, Lindsey.
Thank you.